The Galactic Council chamber fell silent when Ambassador Rukor slammed his clawed fist on the podium. The towering Kravathi warrior, whose species had conquered 17 star systems before joining the council, was not known for displays of emotion. Yet here he stood, his scaled face contorted in what could only be described as embarrassment. I move that we grant human Hana Mizuki the official title of Galactic Pediatric Comfort Specialist, he rumbled, his translator struggling with the unfamiliar designation. The chamber erupted. Delegates from across the galaxy chittered, hissed, and vocalized their confusion in a dozen languages. Hana sat in the visitors' gallery, her simple medical kit resting on her lap, wondering how a simple act of kindness had led to this absurd moment. She was just a pediatric nurse who'd volunteered for the human colony ship program. Nothing special, nothing worth a council hearing. But the galaxy, she'd learned, had very different ideas about what was special. It had started 6 months ago on Station Epsilon 7, a neutral trading hub where hundreds of species mingled. Hana had been exploring the market district when she heard it, a sound that transcended species, a child crying. She'd followed the wailing to a small alcove where a young Kravathi cub, no more than 4 in human years, sat clutching a torn stuffed creature. The toy was bizarre to human eyes, 6-legged with crystalline spines, but the cub's devastation was universal. The child's guardian, an adult Kravathi warrior, stood helplessly nearby. When he noticed Hana approaching, his hand instinctively moved to his weapon. Humans were new to the galactic stage, and the Kravathi were bred for war. They didn't trust easily. Please, Hana said softly, raising her empty hands. I might be able to help. The warrior's eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, narrowed suspiciously. But the cub's crying intensified, and something in the warrior's posture softened. Hana knelt beside the child, her movements slow and deliberate. She examined the stuffed toy. One leg had been torn clean off, the synthetic stuffing spilling out like crystalline sand. May I? She asked the cub, holding out her hand. The young Kravathi hesitated, then passed over the treasured toy. Hana reached into her medical kit, the one she always carried, and pulled out a small sewing kit. She'd packed it on a whim, thinking she might need to repair her own clothes in space. The warrior watched, confused, as Hana threaded a needle with practiced ease. Her hands moved with the same careful precision she used when suturing wounds in the pediatric ward back on Earth. The same gentle confidence that had calmed countless frightened children. 20 minutes later, she handed back the toy. The leg was reattached, the seam barely visible. She'd even reinforced the other joints, anticipating future roughhousing. The cub's crying stopped instantly. Small clawed hands clutched the toy close. And then, to Hana's surprise, the child leaped forward and wrapped its arms around her neck. The warrior stood frozen, his 3 eyes wide with shock. In Kravathi culture, physical affection toward strangers was unthinkable. Yet his offspring clung to this strange, soft human as if she'd saved its life. In a way, Hana supposed she had. Just not in any way the Galactic Council typically recognized. Word spread faster than quantum communications. Within a week, Hana's quarters had a line outside. Kravathi cubs, Therian younglings, even a nervous Centauri juvenile, all clutching damaged toys, blankets, or comfort objects. Their parents watched with the same bewildered expression. How could this human fix what they could not? The answer was simple. Most species in the galaxy had mastered molecular fabrication. A broken toy? Dispose of it, print a new one. The concept of repair was archaic, inefficient. But they didn't understand what Hana knew from years of working with children. It wasn't about the object. It was about the bond, the memories, the irreplaceable emotional connection. You couldn't fabricate that. Each toy she repaired carried the same careful attention. She learned to work with materials that didn't exist on Earth, crystalline fibers that hummed with resonance, biosynthetic fabrics that shifted colors, even a toy that existed partially in another dimension. She adapted, improvised, learned. The parents paid her in credits, in food, in gratitude. But more than that, they watched. They saw how she spoke to their children, gently treating their concerns as valid and important. How she never rushed, never dismissed a child's attachment to what others saw as mere objects. Humans, they began to whisper, understood something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Then came the incident that brought Ambassador Rukor to the council. His own cub, Sakura, had been injured in a shuttle accident. The child survived, galactic medicine ensured that, but the trauma left Sakura withdrawn, refusing to eat, crying through the sleep cycles. No treatment helped. In desperation, Rukor brought his cub to the human, not for physical healing, but for something else, something he couldn't name. Hana examined the child, then asked a single question. "Where is Mika?" Sakura's distress intensified. Mika, they explained, was the cub's stuffed companion. It had been destroyed in the accident, vaporized. They'd fabricated a replacement, molecularly identical. "But it's not the same," Hana said quietly. She couldn't recover the original, but she could do something else. She took the fabricated replacement and spent 3 days modifying it. She added patches to mirror Sakura's new scars. She included small repairs that looked old, worn, evidence of a shared history. She even singed one corner slightly, where the original had been damaged in a previous adventure. When she returned the toy, Sakura took one look and began to cry. But these were different tears. The cub clutched the toy, and for the first time since the accident, fell into peaceful sleep. Rukor wept that night. A Krevati warrior who'd faced death across a dozen battlefields wept because a human understood something he couldn't articulate. That healing wasn't always about erasing the damage. Sometimes it was about honoring the scars. "Motion carries," the council speaker announced, her voice resonating across the chamber. "Hana Mizuki is hereby recognized as the first galactic pediatric comfort specialist, with all rights and privileges therein." Hana stood overwhelmed. She'd come to space expecting to use her medical training. Instead, she'd become something unexpected, a bridge between species, united by the universal language of a child's love for their worn, patched, irreplaceable friend. Rukor met her at the chamber exit, his massive form bowing slightly, a gesture of profound respect among his kind. "Thank you," he rumbled, "for teaching us to see value in the broken things." Hana smiled, adjusting her medical kit, now full of needles, thread, and patches in every color the galaxy could offer. "They were never broken," she replied, "just loved."